A little something to uplift your spirit. Turn your radios all the way up. Roll your windows down.
Can't wear me down.
Yeah.
I'm moving on. You can dim my light. You can pray for my downfall every night. Yeah. See, this truth makes me high. I'm a rocket till I die. I take my wings and fly high. You can't wear me down. This lonely road is very long. I pray Yahawashi keeps me strong. Cause with him there can be no wrong. You can't wear me down.
See, I could fall or drown in self-doubt, or stand on my feet and pull myself out. Yeah. If I was weak, I'd throw the towel in easily, or take a second look to see what life is teaching me. And embrace it boldly. No rush, I take it slowly. If I go off the path, then I pray he show me. I was blessed with talents, and I accept the challenge. Life's a tightrope walk, somehow I kept it balanced. And when they tried to wear me, I knew that y'all would spare me. I kept the law, I'm not sure that some of y'all could hear me. But I'm not surprised, failure is not advised. Can't walk a mile in my shoes, my man, they're not your size. Take these words and share it, go let your mother hear it. If he's down, hook a song can lift a brother's spirit. And to the precious sisters, music was made to lift us. Touch our spirit at times if it's based in scriptures. And never say that your hope is done. Your faith is built, every obstacle you overcome. Count your blessings, cause life is a precious gift. Praise to Yahweh and the greatest king that ever lived, Yahawashi.
See, this truth makes me high. I'm a rocket till I die. I take my wings and fly high. You can't wear me down. This lonely road is very long. I pray Yahawashi keeps me strong. Cause with him there can be no wrong. You can't wear me down. Ooh, yeah. Wear me down.
A little
And I beheld heaven open, and behold a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. We are at
So you better lace your straps up.
and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps up.
Man, the hell up this room.
This is
We
war.
are at war.
So you better lace your straps up.
And spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps
Man, the hell
up.
up this room. Big tanks, warships, and planted hands with small chips. North Korea, Russian spies, war is at our doorsteps. History doesn't lie, they beat the slaves with horse whips. So I think it's only right we pay them back with small tips. End of time, spoken of, it's gonna get a little warm. Daniel 7 started 8, judgment of the little horn that beat us down, held us back, called us by obscenities. Prepare us a table in the presence of our enemies and pay them back. Worse than that, they argue that the earth is flat. Our babies dying, mothers crying, cities full of murdered blacks. Hispanics too, they hate you too. Edomites are not your friend. Harmless smile behind the scenes. They tracking you through iPhone 10 technologies, through policy. We served them since the colonies. This ain't our rest. My mind is right. This place is hell. I'm not at ease. I swore an oath with every breath. I promise to defend the law. Sword is sharpened, armored up. I'm calling for the men of
This is
war.
war.
We are at
So
war.
you better lace your straps up.
Physical and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps up.
Man, the hell up this room.
This is
We
war.
are at war.
So you better lace your straps up.
Physical and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps
Man, the hell
up.
up.
Yo, Priest, what's good, man?
Yo,
You got all this new merch. You got music people waiting on. Elite Elements. What's good, man?
You know, I need a place to put my business. I'm going to talk to McGunn, but this is perfect timing with him getting those buildings.
I think that's him calling right now.
Yo, what's good, King?
Ain't nothing, man. What's good?
Nothing much, man. I'm looking at the property right now.
Oh, yeah?
Looks like a good deal, brother.
Hey, Con.
Meet me at the office.
All right, I'm here with Priest.
Alright. No doubt. Shalom.
Hold on.
Flexing, 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 flexing. If you keep the most high laws, then you flexing. If you out teaching in the streets, then you flexing. If you keep it real no matter what, then you flexing. If you strong in the brotherhood, then you flexing. Yo. I'm back at it, using the wise tactics. Write expenses off, which saves me from the taxes. I'm chilling, relaxing, watching many actions. Stay away from drama to avoid backtracking. In the meantime, I'm here keeping the commandments. Authentic, no capping and no caption. Property upon property, that's how we cash it. Hold up, let me talk to him. Make investments from the money that you save. Discipline and wisdom both combine is what it takes. A calculated risk is what we call playing smart. Learn the knowledge cause the system keep us in the dark. People get in debt to go to college, end up as a worker. Wages not matching the expenses, makes no sense. Always keep your high thoughts in your heart. After all, God's children was chosen to be set apart. You heard that? After all, God's children was chosen to be set apart. If you elevating all the time, then you flexing. If you the type to stay on your grind, then you flexing. If you help the poor when you can, then you flexing. You the type to execute a plan, then you flexing. Then you flexing. Yeah, listen. Quarter juice, quarter chips was a whole meal. Now it's the best steak after landing good deals. Wouldn't change for $1 or a couple mils. An Israelite is who I am and it's not for sale. For all the good things, there's the price to pay. Knew the worst was 2009 and I'm here to stay. Once again, let me talk to him.
Alright, so after all this, all we need is the financing.
Well, I have a hard money lender. All they require is 10%.
Okay.
Okay. What about selling?
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kwadash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahawah, Malakwatha, Taba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratazar, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nathanawa, Lacham, Kal, Yawam, Wasalachnawa, Chaubwathnawa, Kasalachnawa, Chaubwathyanawa, Wala'a, Tabia Anawa, Manasaya 1, Abal, Hawashayanawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'athapa Arath, La'ai Walamyam, Aman. Ya Baraka, Ya Baraka, Yahawah, Yahawah, Wayashamaka, Wayashamaka, Yahawah, 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 Panyawa al Yak, Panyawa al Yak, Wayachanka, Wayachanka, Yahawah, Yahawah, Yasha'ayahawah, Yasha'ayahawah, Panyawa al Yak, Panyawa al Yak, Wayasham, Wayasham, Laka Shalom, Laka Shalom, Yahawah Bahasham, Yahawah Bahasham, Yahawashi, Yahawashi, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yahawah, Yahawah, Yahawah Bahasham, Yahawah Bahasham, Yahawashi, Yahawashi, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yasha'Allah, Yasha'Allah.
Give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. And I do so, of course, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahawashi, who the world calls Jesus Christ. I want to say shalom, peace and blessings to everybody that's listening. First and foremost, as always, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's watching us on YouTube, on our platforms, Maccabeestv, as well as our YouTube platform, Lions of Israel Class. Guys, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you guys can be notified every time we go live. And of course, interact with the video, leave a comment, of support, so forth and so on, okay? Of course, I want to shout out everybody that's watching us on Nasiah TV. Shout out to Brother Nasiah for the continued good works that he does to be able to proliferate these lessons directly into people's homes. And last but not least, of course, shout out to my folks on Clubhouse. So today's an interesting weekend because there are, although a lot of Hebrew Israelite camps have different variations of the calendar depending on when you observe the new moon, whether you observe the dark moon or the first light, whatever it is. There are slight variations, but for the most part, I see a lot of camps observing the Feast of Tabernacles sometime within the last 7 days. Our camp, Lions of Israel, is currently observing it as well. So I'm looking on Facebook, I'm looking online, I'm looking on Instagram, and I'm seeing a lot of brothers and sisters out in the wilderness camping. So I know how sometimes internet service can be choppy out there. So there's going to be a lot of folks that's going to miss the lesson, but that's okay. I'm going to make sure that I broadcast for you brothers and sisters that we're not able to go camping with us, but you come here every week faithfully for the lessons. I want to make sure that you brothers and sisters are continually fed with the word, okay? So just hang in there with me today. I'm going to kind of go through it a little bit. Before I get into it, of course, I have the Elder Zahab on the phone, on the line with me as well. So if you wanted to say a couple of words before we get started, the floor is his.
Hey, Shalom family. Just want to say a Shabbat to the family, and I pray everybody having a blessed Feast of Tabernacles. That's it.
All praises, all praises. So guys on Clubhouse, you already know that if there's any technical issues with the stream, you guys can always click the link at the top of the room on Clubhouse, and you guys can come over to YouTube. All right. So as you probably can guess, since we are observing the Feast of Tabernacles, I'm currently not home right now, so I'm praying everything goes well with the stream. So you brothers and sisters, as always, just exercise a level of patience with me if there's anything wrong with the stream. All right. Well, with that being said, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get on into it, okay? Okay. So the name of today's lesson is called Yahawashi in the Feast Days. And this is a series of videos that I've put together concerning the holy days that are mentioned in the book of Leviticus chapter 23. Pardon the noise 1 second, y'all. This is a series of video PowerPoints I put together that are related to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, where the Most High, through Moses, prescribed for us our set-apart days. And on our set-apart days, as we read Leviticus chapter 23, we see that our set-apart days have meaning. There are no days on our calendar that are set apart, that are just there just to be there. We've kind of become accustomed to that sort of mindset here in America, where you have a frivolous day off or a frivolous day that they set apart or set aside that really has no meaning. And the days that actually do have meaning, such as their Easter, such as their Thanksgiving, such as their Christmas, all have pagan origins and have nothing to do with the Most High, actually. But our days actually have meaning, right? So the Most High set aside those days as a memorial for us to remember different events. The Feast of Tabernacles that we find ourselves in, many of us celebrating now, is one of those type of days. And the beauty of these holy days that the Most High gave us, there was always attached to these holy days a certain level of reconciliation that could be made for the people by the priests, who were the mediators. The priest would offer certain sacrifices that would make reconciliation or atonement or restitution, whatever word you want to use, for the sins of the people. And that's a beautiful thing. But we would come to our time in our history where we would no longer have a temple and we would no longer have a priesthood because Israel got so wicked. The Most High done put every nation at some point over us and put us in captivity under these nations. And we as the Israelites, we didn't learn. The Most High knocked our temple down during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, then allowed the temple to be rebuilt. It wasn't built in the splendor that Solomon built it, but it was rebuilt during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, right? And then there were also, the temple was again desecrated during the time of Pompey, one of the Roman consuls. He desecrated our temple sometime around 65 BC, somewhere around there. And then the Most High had these Edomites called the Herods that were doing a construction project on a temple that was never actually finished because in 70 AD, the Romans came in and knocked the temple down. And all these things are important because once you don't have the temple, yes, you have the memorial, which is the days, the set apart days in their meaning, but the reconciliation, the restitution that could be made for the people by the mediators and by the priests would cease to exist, would cease to be offered without the temple and the people that the Most High set apart to do it. And so we have to find a way now, in the absence of a temple, in the absence of a priesthood, for reconciliation to be made. And that's where Hamashiach Yahawashi, who the world calls Jesus Christ, that's where he comes in. And so we look at the Old Testament with a fresh set of eyes and understand that a lot of those things that we saw in the Old Testament, those things were a shadow of something greater that would come, which would be Yahawashi. And we can now see Yahawashi in these feast days. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today towards the end of the lesson. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get into it. Let's start with the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, verse number 7. It says, "Remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations. Ask thy fathers, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee." So in ancient times, if you wanted to know the ways of old, the old paths, you would ask your father. Because back then, before Israel completely went off, our family unit was still intact. So you would have a mother and a father. You would have a grandfather and a grandmother, right? So you can ask the elders, and they can tell you the proper way. They can tell you the old paths. Even in generations, maybe a generation ago, even here in our captivity in the West, you had more of a family structure until, of course, that was destroyed by Franklin Roosevelt in the New Deal, right? And then first wave feminism and other things that got the man out the house and destroyed the family unit through Gloria Steinem, which was a CIA agent. I don't know if a lot of you guys know that. Gloria Steinem was a CIA operative, and Angela Davis, and so forth and so on. And now the family unit has been destroyed. So we don't, many of us have these elders that we can go and ask for the old paths, but we have the Bible. We've been able to identify ourselves as the children of Israel. So we may not physically have these elders within our family, but we have the Bible. And then on top of that, the Most High also sets up instructors and leaders and elders in the spirit to oversee the flock, to watch over the flock. And so you can also learn the old paths from them as well. Let's look at Job chapter 8, verse 8. It says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age." So you're supposed to ask about the old paths and prepare thyself to the search of thy fathers. That is what we're supposed to do. This is Jeremiah chapter 6. We're going to read verses 16 through 17. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the way and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way?" So the good way is in the old paths. Right after we got out of slavery, now, first of all, we all know America was never great for our people. Let's just get that understood, right? America was never great for our people. But right out of slavery, when we were allowed to be on our own, establish our own businesses, establish our own communities, so forth and so on, and our family unit was intact, and our quote unquote community was intact, and we had morals and standards, and shame still existed, so forth and so on. That was one of the most prosperous times for our people in the West. And so we can actually see those things and see what worked for us. And then we could see over time what they so-called called progress, as things has progressed, as laws have been passed, as people have become more modernized, we can see the denigration of our people in our community and where we are now, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, right? And by the way, we were much more connected to the Most High, even though many of our people were Christians back then, right? But we would still had some type of connection to God and the Bible. We are more removed from God and the Bible today than we've ever been. If that's supposed to be a good thing, the Bible is fake, if the Bible has destroyed our people and all the things that people that are anti-Bible say, I need an explanation as to why it is that we are now more removed from the Bible than ever. You have more Black people, Hispanic people, Native American people that are atheists than ever. They don't believe in God. They don't believe the people in the Bible are real. You have all these different types of thoughts and philosophies amongst our people. Why is it that the most we are disconnected from the Bible is the most degenerate and the lowest state our people has ever been? What is that connection? That's showing you something. Because in the old past, when we were more connected to God, that was the good way. And that's what we're supposed to seek. That's what those of us in the truth, that is what we're seeking. But a lot of our people are not seeking that. It says, "And ask for the old paths, wherein is the good way, and walk therein." Once you find out what those old paths are, which let's just keep it very simple and plain, it's the law, statutes, and commandments, we're supposed to walk therein. But our people say, no. "And ye shall find rest for your souls." We would find rest for our souls. We would no longer be in captivity under these other nations if we just would keep God's laws. 1 Chronicles 7:14, "If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will hear them and heal their land." That's kind of loosely paraphrased, but you guys get the idea. We have to humble ourselves. We have to seek God's face, and the Most High would heal us. And we receive rest from all of our captivities and all the oppression that these other nations have done to us. But they said, "We will not hearken." That sounds like Negroes to me. Verse 17. "Also, I set watchmen over you." That's the leaders. That's the teachers, the ones that people don't like, that people don't want to hear. "Saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet." What is the trumpet? The Bible. The trumpet is the warning. What is a watchman? The Most High is using a metaphor. A watchman is a metaphor for the teachers and the prophets. The watchman stands at the top of the wall, looking for trouble, looking for the enemy. When the enemy is about to come and attack, the watchman can see the enemy from afar off and blow the trumpet, which is the alarm, which is to warn the people, and the people can prepare themselves. And that's what the watchman are doing, whether it be on the highways and the byways, where we're in the streets, whether it be making YouTube videos, whether it be the countless hours that we spend on Clubhouse trying to teach our people, whatever the situation is, we're always watching for our people and blowing the trumpet. But what? It says, but they said, we're not going to hearken. It's like somebody being in a building, right? And, you know, you have a security guard that will do rounds in the building. A lot of security jobs, you know, you're taking care of a building. Like every hour, the security guard has to do rounds in the building. So the security guard is doing rounds in the building. He's watching. That's all a security guard is. He's a watchman. He's the eyes. Security guards can't make arrests. They really have no power. They're not policemen. They're just the eyes of the business. They're watching, right? And when they see something wrong, let's just say they see somebody getting ready to break into the building, whatever, they have to sound the alarm. Or they walk into a room and they're noticing that there's some type of electrical problem, that there's sparks coming out that might ignite into a fire. They have to warn somebody. So the security guard comes and tells you, hey, I went into that room, over the electrical room, and I see sparks. I smell smoke. There's about to be a fire. And the people saying, oh, we don't give a damn. We're not leaving. That's our people when it comes to this Bible. But they're going to have no excuse on Judgment Day. That's the thing. Let's move on. So, as I mentioned before, our holy days have meaning. So let's just take a look at some of the meanings of our holy days. So the first holy day on our calendar is Passover, which falls sometime around March or April, right? And it's to remember Israel's deliverance. And by the way, especially my camp knows I do this from time to time. I ask brothers what these holy days actually mean. And a lot of times, sometimes, with no disrespect, brothers fail. You might know the holy day, you've heard of it, but you don't even know what it means. So we're going to go through it. Passover, remember Israel's deliverance from Egypt. Unleavened bread, remember how the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt, meaning in haste. So if somebody asks you, everybody knows that Passover is the deliverance, but unleavened bread represents how we were delivered from Egypt, in haste. No time to put leaven inside the bread. We had to leave fast. First fruits, 4 letters, land. The minute that you hear fruit, grain, harvest, in order to have fruit, grain, or harvest, what must you have? Land. So we're recognizing the Most High giving us the land that he promised Abraham. The Feast of Weeks, your harvest. Feast of Trumpets, it's time to present yourself before the Most High because 2 major holy days are coming up. Atonement, just what it means. The priests cleansing themselves and the people in the holy place. And Tabernacles, which we're in now, is memorializing the journey from Egypt to Canaan. Notice how none of the holy days have a frivolous meaning. It all means something. It all has a meaning. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 23. Let's start from verse number 1. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which he shall proclaim to be holy convocation. A convocation is a gathering. Holy means set apart. These days are not like any other day. These days are not even like regular Sabbaths. They're higher than that. Even these are my feasts. Let's skip down to verse number 37. So from Leviticus chapter 23, verses 1 and 2 tells us that it's going to run down our feasts, right? Then from verses 3 to verses 36 actually give us the list of the feasts. We all know this. We all know this. So there's no need for me to even go through that. We all know this. It gives us all these holy days right here on the left-hand side of the screen are mentioned in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 3 through 36. That's what this is all about. Okay? But let's jump down to verse number 37. It says, this is a summary now of everything we read between verses 3 and verses 36. It's going to give us a summary. It says, these are the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Watch this. To offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. What is this? This is a sacrifice. A burnt offering. So some of the holy days on this list, you had to do burnt offerings. And a meat offering. All of these holy days had meat offerings. A sacrifice and a drink offering. All these holy days had drink offerings. Everything upon his day. Why? Because all the meat offerings, all the drink offerings, all the burnt offerings, and so forth and so on, were not the same every holy day. Some holy days you offered more, and some holy days you offered less. It all depends. And you read about these offerings in the book of Numbers, which we're going to get to later. But the point is, there were sacrifices that were being made on these holy days, and these sacrifices were being made by the priests. And some of these sacrifices were to make reconciliation for Israel on these set apart days. Because in between these set apart days, what was Israel doing? We were sinning. In between these set apart days, what were the very priests that were offering on our behalf doing? They were sinning. So the Most High prescribed certain things to make reconciliation, right? To get us back on good terms. Verse 38. Besides the Sabbaths of the Lord's, and besides your gifts, besides all your vows, and all your freewill offerings which ye shall give unto the Lord. So these are the things that we did on these holy days, right? Okay, let's move on. Let's look at the book of Isaiah, chapter 1. We're going to read verses 11 through 27. So here's the thing. What does a wicked people like Israel, what do we do? The Most High prescribes for us certain sacrifices that allow us to make reconciliation. And so we, the Israelites, decide, we're going to abuse the system. We're going to abuse it. If I know that I can make reconciliation and restitution on this particular day, I'm going to do some messed up stuff, and I'm going to just offer some sacrifices and make it right. But that don't make it right. That's wrong. Let's look at Isaiah chapter 1, verses 11. It says, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me? Because Israel was making a multitude of sacrifices. They were, I want to say, over-sacrificing, and they weren't doing it to be righteous. They were doing it because they were abusing the system. Saith the Lord, I am full of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and delight not in the blood of bullocks or of lambs or of he-goats. That doesn't mean that the Most High doesn't delight in what he prescribed for us to do, but the Most High did not want to be full of these offerings, meaning you overdoing it because you're abusing it. It's just like if your favorite food, whatever it is, right? Just think about whatever your favorite food is. You like it, you enjoy it, but you don't enjoy it in excess. Even your favorite thing to eat, whatever it is, your favorite thing to drink, whatever it is, in excess wearies you. You become tired of it. Verse 12. When ye come to appear before me, who hath required this at your hand to tread my courts? Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with. It is iniquity, even a solemn meeting, because people were bringing incense and burning incense on these holy days. And of course, there are sacrifices on the new moon. There are sacrifices on the Sabbaths that the priest would make, so forth and so on. And again, the people were abusing it. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth. They are trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yea, when ye make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Remember what it says in the book of Proverbs. The Most High, he that will not hear the law of the Lord, your prayers are an abomination. Just because you're making sacrifices, especially if you willfully sinning, your prayer is an abomination. And that's what Israel was doing. Israel was willfully sinning. They're making these sacrifices, so their prayers and their sacrifices to the Most High became abominable or detestable to him, because it wasn't even being done in sincerity. Verse 16, it says, wash you, make you clean, put away the evil of your doing before my eyes, and cease to do evil. That's what the Most High requires. That's why it tells you in the book of Samuel, the Most High said, obedience is better than sacrifice. Ceasing to do evil is better than sacrifice, so that you don't have to make all these vain sacrifices for nothing. But Israel couldn't understand that. Verse 17, learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. These were things that Israel, especially those that were in positions of leadership, were not doing. They would wrest judgment. They would oppress the poor. They would oppress the widow, take advantage of the widow. That's what they would do if the price was right. Verse 18, it says, come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be wool. If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land. So it's about being willing and obedient. This was something that Israel was not doing. They got carried away with the ritualistic aspect of the commandments, which was them sacrifices. It was never really, that's why it tells you in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, it couldn't make the conscience right. Them sacrifices couldn't make the conscience right. Because you can just go and sacrifice that and still be at your core evil. Verse 20, but if ye refuse and rebel, ye shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. How is the faithful city become an harlot? That's what Israel became. We became like a harlot, started worshiping these other gods and following the customs that were associated with these other gods. When we're supposed to be espoused to the Most High, we're in contract with the Most High, because that's what marriage is. Marriage is a covenant. It's a covenant. It's an agreement. We were in agreement with the Most High. And at the same time, we were dealing with these other nations at the same time. The nations the Most High told us not to deal with, and worshiping their gods too. And it got so bad with Israel, especially the Israelites in the diaspora, that we would be in the synagogues and the temples. We were having this conversation on Clubhouse yesterday. We'd be in the synagogues and the temples, especially during the times of the New Testament, in cities like Alexandria, where you had a million Jews in Alexandria in the first century. In places like Cyrene, in places like Ephesus, so forth and so on, Thessalonica. We would be in these synagogues with the Mosaic law in one hand and believing in Greek philosophy at the same time. That's what these Israelites in the diaspora were doing during the first century, during the time of the New Testament. That's what they were doing. That makes you a harlot. Not literally, but spiritually, because you took the Most High's covenant in your mouth. You identify yourself as an Israelite. Therefore, you are in covenant with the Most High. But at the same time, you're following behind the philosophies of the Greeks, who got a lot of their philosophies from the Egyptian, who the Most High told you in Leviticus chapter 18 that you're not supposed to take their ways or do their ways. So literally, I ain't even going to say figuratively, literally, by following Greek philosophy, you're following Egypt, which the Lord told you in the book of Leviticus chapter 18, verses 1-3, not to do. So the Most High called Israel a harlot. Verse 21. How is the faithful city become an harlot? How else did Israel become a harlot? Now, I'm just giving you guys little points of reference in history. When you read the book of 1 Maccabees chapter 1, right? We all read it. Feast of Dedication is coming up soon. We all read it. What did we say? We said in 1 Maccabees chapter 1 that we asked the Greeks, hey, do us a favor, right? Build us a gymnasium right here in our city so that we can be just like you guys. We want to be just like you. We don't want to follow our own customs. So we made our city into a harlot, literally. Then when the Romans come into power, when you look at the city plan or the floor plan in the first century of Jerusalem, during the time that the Romans were ruling, there were pagan temples everywhere. In Jerusalem. So the Most High said the city has become a harlot, and we agreed to this thing. Not everybody, but many of our people agreed to this stuff. It is full of judgment, verse 21, the end of it. It was full of judgment, righteousness lodged in it, right? But now, murderers. Thy silver is become dross, thy wine mixed with water. Thy princes are rebellious and companions of thieves. That's what our leaders became. It was all about money. Everyone loveth gifts and followeth after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither doth the cause of the widow come unto them. Therefore saith the Lord of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of mine adversaries and avenge me of mine enemies. Now, we all know that Esau is God's number one enemy, pursuant to Psalms chapter 83 and all those other nations. But just understand, amongst our nation, some of our people have become an enemy to God too. Who? The ones in verse number 23. The ones that are companions of thieves, that love gifts, that follow after rewards, that judge not to follow if that doth the cause of the widow come unto them, so forth and so on. You become an enemy to the Most High. We don't do what's right. So the Most High said he's going to ease himself of you. You know what that means? It means the Most High is going to destroy you. That happened to a lot of our forefathers through all those captivities that they went through right up until 70 AD. And guess what? Bring it up to modern times, the Most High is going to ease himself of a lot of our people today too. Verse 25. And I will turn my hand upon thee and purely purge away thy dross and take away thy tin. This is for the elect, because some of our people, they have been corrupted. Many of us were corrupted before we came into the truth. But we actually repented. We did what verse 19 said. We were willing and obedient. So the Most High is going to have mercy on us and turn his hand upon us and purge away our dross and take away all thy tin, meaning all those impurities, like we always talk about when you have gold or any type of precious metal, when you find it in the earth, there's a lot of impurities. And it goes through a purification process, and the Most High purges away all the impurities so it becomes what it's supposed to be, or what it's supposed to look like. That's going to be the elect. But not everybody. Verse 25. And I will restore thy judges at the first. And when the Most High purges away that dross, and those men stand up that are fine gold, the Most High said he's going to restore them as judges, just like at the beginning during the time of Moses, when Moses established the judges, which is the government. And thy counselors as at the beginning. And afterwards thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with her judgment, and her converts with righteousness. And the word converts is a proselyte, which means someone whose opinion changes, and that's most of us. In the world, we had our opinions. If you was a Christian, whatever denomination, you might have been a Muslim, you might have been an atheist, so forth and so on. And then you heard this truth, you repented, you were willing and obedient, unlike the rest of our people that abuse the system. The only difference between the people of Isaiah's time and now is the people of now, they abuse it through Yahawashi. In ancient times, they literally abused the sacrifices. Literally. In this day and age, the Christians abuse or use Yahawashi's sacrifice as their cloak for sin. It's the same spirit. But some of us don't do that. And so we have a change of opinion. We have a change of ways. We repent. And the Most High is going to restore these brothers and sisters in the end. And the rest of Israel is going to get their judgment. The Most High said he's going to ease himself of them. That's a nice way of saying he's going to destroy you. Let's move on. Now, the sacrifices couldn't make us perfect, as I mentioned before. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 10, starting from verse 1. It says, "For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of those things, can never, with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually, make the comers thereunto perfect." No, because Israel simply abused the system. The sacrifices could not make us perfect in our heart or our conscience towards the Most High. It just became like a vain ritual. It was just something that we did. And we got to check ourselves too to make sure, even in this truth now, when these holy days are coming up, that you really understand the reason why we're keeping the holy days, and it doesn't become a ritual like it was when you was in church. You know, every year you went to church Easter Sunday because it was a family tradition. Maybe grandma, ma, auntie, dad, whatever, would go to church, and then you carry on the tradition and you pass it down to your children, and it just became a tradition. And the same thing with Christmas and everything else, right? You have to make sure, we have to make sure that we're keeping these holy days in a perfect heart and conscience towards the Most High, to understand what these holy days mean, why we're keeping it, and how Yahawashi and what he did ties into these holy days. Because what Yahawashi did for us, Yahawashi made a way back to the Father through his sacrifice and offered a greater sacrifice that could cover us, because these vain oblations that we read about right here in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 11 on down, the blood of goats, so forth and so on, those things didn't cover everything. Those sacrifices had limits. If you were guilty of certain sins, there was no blood of a bullock or a goat or a turtle dove or anything else that could cover you. And understanding that, that means that all of us, almost without exception, that's listening to my voice, almost all of us should have been destroyed. Because the very things that the blood sacrifices of the old covenant didn't cover were the very things that many of us were doing before we came into the truth. A lot of brothers, before you came into the truth, you were adulterers. You didn't give a daggone if you saw a woman on the street, she told you she had a man, she had a husband. Some of you brothers, that made you want to talk to her more. That made you desire her more. Just the very thrill of taking a man's wife from him or sleeping with a man's wife. There are some of the greatest hits of the 90s and 2000s in R&B. Some of the greatest hits that were written in that time frame is all about adultery. And it's the men. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it tall. We like to blame the sisters for a lot. It's the men promoting that stuff. I almost said the four-letter word. It's the men. Now, we made these guys rich, platinum, double platinum, triple platinum, all that stuff, listening to these records, man. And it was all sin. Some brothers were drug dealers before you came into the truth. Some brothers were murderers before you came into the truth. Some of you sisters were whores before you came into the truth, jumping from man to man to man to man to man. You was in the church. Many of us were in the church. That's idolatry. So, of course, under that old covenant with these animal sacrifices, that's supposed to be death. That's supposed to be death. We'd walk around with a Bible in our hand and not even know what's in it. You ask a Christian, where is Christmas in the Bible? They couldn't tell you, but they do it. Right? Not realizing they're practicing in a idolatrous pagan custom. Now, prior to Christ's coming, there's still, even your ignorance of that still wasn't a reason for you to do it. You're still supposed to be put to death pursuant to Deuteronomy chapter 13. But then Yahawashi came and he offered himself. And now we could be reconciled from all the things that we did. And now with the understanding of what Yahawashi did and why he did it, we can commemorate and memorialize these holy days with a perfect conscience towards the Most High, because we realize what the Most High actually did for us by giving us his son. It was the only way out for us. Again, this is Hebrews chapter 10, verse 1. It says, for the law, having a shadow of good things to come and not the very image of those things, can never, with those sacrifices that they offered year by year continually, make the comers thereunto perfect. For then, meaning if those sacrifices could have made us perfect, they would not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshipers once purged should have no more conscience of sins. That was the idea with the sacrifices, that you mess up. Most High prescribes certain ways of making reconciliation, making restitution for your sin. You realize that you got a reprieve, right? And you're not supposed to go back and do that again. That's what it was supposed to do. But that's not what it did. Verse 3. But in those sacrifices, there is a remembrance again made of sin every year. Like, people be like, okay, good. I'm going to be the devil that the Bible speaks about as an Israelite. I'm going to be negative as hell. I'm going to be wicked. 364 days on the calendar. But I know when the Day of Atonement comes, if I fast for 24 hours, I got a clean slate. That's not the idea. But that's what Israel was doing. And watch this. Sadly, that's what some Israelites still are doing. Verse 4. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins, especially the sins that we, the Israelites, committed before we came into this truth. The blood of bulls and goats couldn't take away them sins. Wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, just like Isaiah says, but a body thou preparest for me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, thou hast had no pleasure. Why? Because the Most High said these oblations became vain. They weren't even doing it in terms of having a perfect heart, which is your mind or conscience towards the Most High. They were just doing it in vain. They were just doing it as a repetition just to do it. And that's not the idea. That's not why these sacrifices were even added to begin with. Anyway, let's move on. As I mentioned before in Isaiah 119, it says, if ye be willing and obedient. This is 1 Samuel chapter 15. Let's start from verse 20. And Saul said unto Samuel, yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the spoil sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. That was the whole idea. So Israel had it twisted. They thought because the Most High gave them these sacrifices, if they messed up, just run to the sacrifices. No. Obedience trumps sacrifice. That's what the Most High is looking for. Verse 23, it says, for rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. What happens to somebody that's a witch? The Bible says you should not suffer a witch to live. So being rebellious is on the same level as being a witch, according to the Bible, which calls for death. And stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. What happens when you're an idolater? Death. So obedience trumps sacrifice. That's the point. Let's move on. Now, looking at Isaiah 1:27, it says, Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. As I told you guys, proselytes are converts. What does it mean for someone that's a proselyte? A person who has changed from one opinion, religious belief, sect, or the like, to another. And then right there, you guys see the word convert. So those of us that actually convert truly and are obedient to the Most High truly, those are the ones of Zion that are going to be redeemed. And that's what this walk is about. It's about truly repenting. That's why the scriptures tell us that we should examine ourselves. We should do it daily, whether we're in the faith or not. It says, prove your own self. If Yahawashi be in you, except you be reprobate, which is somebody that's void of judgment. You have to constantly measure ourselves against the scriptures to make sure that we're really in the faith. And that everything that we're doing not only is according to the law as a ritual or vain oblation, but you're doing it to be in perfect conscience and perfect heart with the Most High. That's the point. That's the idea. So coming back to Leviticus 23 that we read earlier about the feast days and the offerings that we had, these offerings had a meaning and were not supposed to be abused. Now, let's come down to Leviticus chapter 23. We're going to read verses 39 through 44, dealing with the Feast of Tabernacles. It says, in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. So the first day of Tabernacle is a Sabbath. So all the rules that apply to the Sabbath would apply to the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. And the 8th day shall be a Sabbath, same thing. Verse 40. And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and the willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. Let's talk about this now. So when the Israelites went into the wilderness, we dwelt in the wilderness for 40 years. So when we got into the land, the Most High prescribed to us as a memorial of that sojourning in the wilderness that we commemorate these 8 days and set them apart, and we would dwell in booths. I want you to think about when the Israelites would be in the wilderness, right? You guys do realize the Israelites weren't walking around the wilderness with tents, right? When they were walking around in the wilderness, there was not electricity. We live in modern times now. Most of the campgrounds that we go camping on have a lot of modern amenities, and you have brothers and sisters that can't even do that. You can't even do that much. You won't even go out for 1 day of Tabernacles, not even one. And you have all the modern amenities. These campsites have running water, showers, bathrooms with electricity, daggone, you know what I'm saying? You name it. It has all the modern amenities, and people still don't want to do it. And you guys are pitching tents, right? You have daggone, we have generators out there to help blow up people's mattresses, right? You have your car right there, so you go and charge your cell phone. You have all that. They didn't have none of that in the wilderness. And guess what? pursuant to Ezekiel 20, when we are delivered out of the lands that God scattered us, we're going back into the wilderness. Guess what you're not going to have when you go back into the wilderness? You're not going to have a tent. You're not going to have running water in the bathroom. There will be no electricity. It will be dark. Sometimes it may be hot. Some nights it might be cold. You will not have an air mattress or a sleeping bag. All right. You probably have to make what you can make, put some leaves and sleep on some daggone rocks on your back and not be cold. That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. And so the Most High set apart this day for us to keep it as a memorial. And it's good to see a lot of Israelites. Like I said earlier in the lesson, I'm looking online and I see quite a few camps keeping tabernacles, and I see brothers and sisters out there. It's good to keep this. And it's not the most comfortable thing. I know sometimes the bathrooms at these places are not the most sanitary, but we have to prepare ourselves, because in the wilderness, you're going to be going to the bathroom in the ground. You're going to have to dig a hole and then cover it up like how the animals do. That's what you're going to have to do. And that's what I believe is going to cause some of the Israelites to rebel in the wilderness, because just like the ones in ancient Egypt, they got in the wilderness, they started complaining about how great they had it in Egypt. They were complaining while they were in Egypt. God delivered them from the Egyptians. They got in the wilderness and started complaining. Anyway, so we would take these, and by the way, think about it. They had no tents, so they would take down these trees that were in the wilderness and they build their shelter with these trees, right? First of all, you have to have people that know how to do that, right? And then when you start thinking about trees, a lot of these trees have all types of insects in it and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of sisters are scared of insects. You're scared of this. You're scared of that. You got to think about these things, right? Anyway, verse 40. And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. Even though this was something that was not very, what's the word I want to use? Comfortable. It doesn't have all the modern amenities of being home. We're supposed to rejoice in it because God did something great. The Lord showed favor pursuant to Exodus chapter 11, I believe it's verse 7. The Most High showed favor and put a difference between the Hebrews and the Egyptians. He showed us favor. So we're supposed to rejoice in that, even in a situation that may not be comfortable for you for a few days, to show the Most High gratitude as a memorial. Let's continue, verse 41. And ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations, and ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All of the Israelites born shall dwell in booths. Verse 43, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feasts of the Lord. Let's move on. Food for thought. Let's look at Matthew chapter 12, verse 5. It says, or have ye not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? I want you guys to think about this for a second. Some Sabbath work was forbidden on the Sabbath, right? Because we just read in Leviticus chapter 23, right, that verse 39, that the first day and the 8th day are Sabbaths. We know that some Sabbath work is forbidden, such as servile work or work for hire. That's forbidden on the Sabbath. However, in all cases, work was permitted in the temple. That's what Christ is letting you know. Even though the Most High gave us, as the Israelites, rest on the Sabbath, the priests, to be technical, are working the hardest on the Sabbath, because these are the days where we're doing all these sacrifices. We're about to read about the sacrifices that these priests were making on the day, the Feast of Tabernacle. That is hard work. There were many things which, according to the law, the priests could do on the Sabbath. Particularly, they could slay the animal. Those big, gigantic animals, they had to slay them. They might also knead and make and bake the showbread on the Sabbath as well. They can kill the Passover, sprinkle the blood, burn the fat. Sometimes you had to burn the entrails, you had to burn the fat. What made these men blameless was that what they did was in the temple and for the service of it, which an emphasis is put. Think about it. The size of some of these animals that we would sacrifice, like a bullock, you know how big that thing is? You know how much that thing weighs? Let's be real. Do you know how those things smell? They stink. Let's be real. Some of these animals that we would have to sacrifice are stubborn. They're going to fight back. They don't want to die. In some cases, these animals are violent if you're trying to take their life. So you got to have these guys holding this animal down, all this stuff. It's a lot of work. For the brothers that slay the Passover, just think about killing that one little lamb that you kill. Right? Just think about that. But add that to a heifer or a bullock that might weigh 500-600 pounds or more. And you're not just doing one, you're doing a ton of them joints. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Let me show you how much work it was. It's the book of Numbers, chapter 29. Let's pick it up from verse number 12. And on the 15th day of the 7th month, ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work. So the point is, remember what I told you guys. You can't do work for hire. But the priest still had work to do, as we're about to read. And ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. And ye shall offer a burnt offering, a sacrifice made by fire, of a sweet savor unto the Lord. 13 young bullocks. So we're gonna do some math now. 13 young bullocks. Let's do some mathematics now, real quick. Let's do some math. What is the average weight let's see what we find. Okay. So we just did a simple Google search. What is the average weight of an adult bull or a bullock, right? It says a typical bull can range in weight from 500 to 1,000 kilograms. That's for a grown adult. So let's say it's a young bullock, you could cut that in half. Let's just say that if it's 11, let's use the lowest number, it's 1,100 pounds, right? Let's just say it's a young bullock, so we'll give it half of that. We'll say it's 750 pounds. So now you got to slay 13 750-pound bullocks. That's just the start. Then you got to do 2 rams. Let's go. Let's see what's that. Let's go back. And rams are violent. They're violent. A ram goat could be anywhere. We're just doing a simple search. A ram goat could be anywhere from 999 pounds to over 350 pounds, depending. Right? Let's come back. And 14 lambs of the first year, and they shall be without blemish. And their meat offering shall be flour mingled with oil. So now you have to, after you do all these sacrifices right here, you also had to make flour mingled with oil. That's work. 3/10 deals unto every bullock of the 13. So for every bullock, you had to do 3/10 deals of meat offering, flour mingled with oil. 2/10 deals for each ram of the 2 rams, and a several tenth deal to each lamb of the 14 lambs. Whoops, went too fast, sorry. Verse 16, and 1 kid of the goats is for a sin offering. Right here, do you guys see what else was going on during the Feast of Tabernacles? There was a sin offering. That's what I was telling you guys before. But in order for this to take place, you need to have a tabernacle, which would eventually become a temple, and you have to have a priesthood to do this. What happens when you don't have that no more? I think everybody already knows the answer. And 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, besides the continual burnt offering. So in addition to all of this, you still have the continual burnt offering that had to be offered on top of all this. His meat offering and his drink offering. Watch this. And on the second day, meaning you guys thought that was if a tabernacle was known on the second day, there's more. Now you got to offer 12 bullocks, 1 less, 2 rams, 14 lambs of the first year without spot, and their meat offering and their drink offering for the bullocks, for the rams, and for the lambs shall be according to their number after the manner. I keep going too fast. Lock it. Verse 19, and 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, besides the continual burnt offering and the meat offering thereof and their drink offering. But you guys thought that was it? No. Verse number 20, and on the third day, 11 bullocks. Just think about it. Every day, you're starting off the first day having to kill 13 of these big behind animals, right? Just the bullocks alone. The second day, you got to kill 12. The third day, you got to kill 11. It's a lot of work. Are you guys seeing it? Let's move on. Let's jump down to verse 21. And their meat offerings and their drink offerings for the bullock and for the rams and for the lambs shall be according to their number after the manner. And 1 goat for a sin offering. So every day there's also what? A sin offering every single day. Besides the continual burnt offering and his meat offering and his drink offering. And on the 4th day, 10 bullocks, same thing. And on the 5th day, 9 bullocks. And on the 6th day, 8 bullocks. You guys seen the pattern? On the 7th day, 7 bullocks. On the 8th day, ye shall have a solemn assembly. Ye shall do no servile work therein. But ye shall offer a burnt offering, a sacrifice made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. 1 bullock. So by the time you get to the 8th day, it's 1 bullock, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without blemish. Their meat offering and their drink offerings for the bullock, for the ram, and for the lambs shall be according to their number after their manner, and 1 goat for a sin offering, besides the continual burnt offering and his meat offering and his drink offering. Verse 39. These things ye shall do unto the Lord in your set feast. See, Leviticus 23 didn't break it down like this. But now Numbers is actually giving you exactly what they were doing. Besides your vows and your freewill offerings, and for your burnt offerings, and for your meat offerings, and for your drink offerings, and for your peace offerings. And Moses told the children of Israel according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So this is what we were doing on these holy days. But the part I want you guys to notice, every single day, there was always an offering for sin. Every day. Right? Okay. What is the purpose of all those sacrifices, all those bullocks, all those rams, all those goats? What is the purpose of those sacrifices? Let's look at Ezekiel 45, verse 17, because it kind of encapsulates everything. Ezekiel 45, verse 17 says, and it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings and drink offerings in the feasts. And we just saw one of the feasts, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, which many are celebrating right now. The priests would offer burnt offerings, meat offerings, drink offerings on the Feast of Tabernacles and the other holy days. And they all had their own prescribed sacrifices. And in the new moons, because there were also sacrifices that were made on the new moons. and in the Sabbaths, because there's also sacrifices that have to be done on the Sabbath. So you guys can see the priests, especially the ones that tended to the tabernacle and the temple, had a lot of work. And in all the solemnities of the house of Israel, he shall prepare the sin offering and the meat offering and the burnt offering and the peace offerings to do what? To make reconciliation with the house of Israel. So these sacrifices, for the most part, exist to make reconciliation between Israel and the Most High, which is great because we needed it. Because we can clearly see, we read in Isaiah chapter 1, that the Israelites had these sacrifices and they were wicked as hell and using them and abusing them while sinning at the same time. So the purpose of the sacrifices was to make reconciliation. What does this word reconciliation actually mean? When you look up the etymology of the word reconciliation, it means a renewal of friendship after disagreement or enmity, the action of reaching accord with an adversary or one estranged, originally especially of God and sinners. There it is. So God, Yahweh, would be estranged from Israel, which would be the sinners. And by means of these different forms of sacrifice, a reconciliation is made. Now we are no longer estranged. Now there is a renewal of friendship because reconciliation has been made. That is the purpose of these sacrifices. These customs continued right into the time when Yahawashi would come on the scene. Let's go to the book of John chapter 7. And let's start from verse number 1. It says, after these things, Yahawashi walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him. Verse 2, now the Jews' feast of Tabernacles was at hand. Now let's just take a look at a map to kind of illustrate what the Bible is teaching us. So the first thing it says is that Yahawashi was walking in Galilee at the time of the Feast of Tabernacles. So we see Galilee is all the way up here in the north. Do you guys see that? And it says Yahawashi did not want to walk in Jewry. So what is Jewry? Jewry is Judea here to the south. Let's go to the next slide. Verse number 3. It says, his brethren therefore said unto him, depart hence and go to Judea. Why is his brethren telling Christ to go to Judea? Because in verse 2, it was the time of the Feast of Tabernacles. So his brethren therefore said unto him, depart hence and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. This is very, very important right here. We're going to get to it shortly. I kind of want to go back a little bit, just slightly for a second. Let's start at the end of John chapter 6 and work our way into John chapter 7, because chapters and verses sometimes interrupt the thought or the idea or the flow of scriptures. It's a great tool that has been provided to us in order to find scriptures, but sometimes it interrupts the thought flow. So let's look at a map, and let me just build me 1 second. You know, I tell you guys all the time, I build this while I fly. When I see things I forget, I come and I add it. Okay, here we go. So, all right. Let's just start at John chapter 6, verse 59. It says, "These things said he in the synagogue as he taught at Capernaum." So if you guys are looking at the map right here at the top, although it's written very small, if you're looking at this on a small screen on the phone, you may not see it, but I have the arrow pointing. This is where Yahawashi was originally in John chapter 6, verse 59. He was all the way up here in the north in Capernaum, right? Okay, that's the end of John chapter 6. Let's go to John chapter 7. After these things, meaning after Yahawashi was in Capernaum, Yahawashi walked in Galilee. So he left Capernaum and he went to Galilee, which is still up here in the north. He was hanging out up here in the north. Why? For he would not walk in Jewry down here because the Jews sought to kill him. Now, verse 2, the Jews' feast of Tabernacles was at hand. So here's the problem now. Yahawashi is up here in the north, but the feast of Tabernacles is coming. So his brethren therefore said unto him, "Depart, you got to leave Galilee. Depart hence and go into Judea, go down here." Why? Because the feast of Tabernacles is coming, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. It's one of the best times for you to go into Jewry because it's going to be a lot of people in Judea because it's the Feast of Tabernacles. You're going to be able to blend in. It's going to be much harder for the people that's looking to kill you to be able to find you because it's a holy day. Is everybody following me? Let's jump down to verse number 10 in the same chapter. John chapter 7, verse 10. But when his brethren were gone up, so his brethren actually went up to keep the feast, then went he also up to the feast. So Yahawashi also went up to Jewry. He finally decided to go. Not openly, but as it were in secret. Why was Yahawashi able to? Before the Feast of Tabernacles, Yahawashi didn't want to go into Judea. But he was willing to go during the Feast of Tabernacles because he'd be able to move in secret. Why? Because the Feast of Tabernacles is what we call a pilgrimage feast. So it would be crowded and he could blend in. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16. It says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose. And in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the Feast of Weeks, and in the Feast of Tabernacles. So Yahawashi was able to go up to Jerusalem during the Feast of Tabernacles because it is a pilgrimage feast. So he's able to blend in. That's why now we understand why he was able to do it in secret. Everybody with me? And he had to do it because they were trying to kill him. This is the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 6, verse 6, just so we can see the place where the Most High put his name. It says, "But I have chosen Jerusalem that my name might be there, and chosen David to be over my people." So the Most High's name Jerusalem was chosen to put the Most High's name there. So that would be the place that everybody would go during these pilgrimage feasts. So it was a perfect time for Yahawashi to go up to Jerusalem at the same time and not have to so much worry about his enemies being able to locate him or harm him, because there's going to be a lot of people in Jerusalem, so you can kind of blend in. Is everybody with me? Okay, hopefully everybody's with me. Now, a lot happens between, so we just read verse number 10. So a lot happens between verses 10 and 37. And so everybody can understand between verses 10 and 37 of John chapter 7, is your 8-day feast. So the New Testament gets right to the point. So now it's taking us to the end of the feast. In chapter 10, Yahawashi is going down to the feast. Excuse me, in verse 10, same chapter, John chapter 7, verse 10, Yahawashi is going down to the feast. In the same chapter, by the time you get down to verse 37, the feast is over. So everything in between is the process of the 8 days. But the New Testament is just focusing on certain points of the story. Verse number 37. In the last day, that great day of the feast, why? Because we learned when we read Leviticus chapter 23 that the first day is the Sabbath and the last day is the Sabbath. So this is consistent. In the last day, that great feast day of the feast, great day of the feast, Yahawashi stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believeth on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Now, this is not in the Bible for nothing, but we're going to get to it when we get to it. Let's move on. Does everybody know what the word halakha means? If you don't know what halakha means, then I'm going to explain it to you in the most basic way that I can. The word halak in the Hebrew, the word halak means to walk, right? So halakha would be like saying the way, right? It'd be like saying the way. What halakha is? Let's read the Encyclopedia Britannica. Halakha in Judaism is the totality of the laws and ordinances that have evolved since biblical times to relegate religious observances and the daily life and conduct of the Jewish people. Quite distinct from the law. I want you guys to focus on this. Quite distinct from the law. So what halakha is, to make it very simple, is halakha is people's interpretation of the law, and it is traditions that have been added over time. That's why it says it evolved. Certain religious observances evolved from the law over time. So we have the law of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is a set-apart day. We're supposed to dwell in booths, 8 days. First day is a holy day, last day is a holy day, so forth and so on. That's the law. But from that law that God gave us evolved traditions, meaning the Jews added traditions on top of that. Is everybody with me? They added their own traditions to it. And that's what halakha is. And they emphasized their traditions over the actual law, just like the so-called Jews do today. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. All right? Y'all bear with me just give me 1 second, y'all. So the Jews elevated their tradition over, the Mosaic law. That's why it says quite distinct from the law. All right, so I want everybody to see that. Okay. Now I want to go to the book of Galatians chapter 1, because Paul speaks about this. All right, this is what he says. This is Galatians chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. It says, "For ye have heard of my conversation in times past in the Jews' religion, how that beyond measure I persecuted the church of God and wasted it. So prior to Paul having that conversion that he had on the road to Damascus, Paul was one of the main people that was persecuting the church or the Israelites that believed in Yahawashi. Verse 14, and profited in the Jews' religion above many my equal in mine own nation, being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my father. So Paul said he was very zealous over these traditions. What are these traditions? These are the things that were added onto the law that already existed. And Paul said he was zealous over these things, meaning he said he would persecute the Israelites that did not follow these traditions that weren't even in the law. Now, if you look at the PowerPoint, I want you guys to look at the word for traditions. It's the Greek word paradosis. Paradosis. When you come here and look at the word paradosis, it means of the body of precepts, especially rituals. What I'm about to show you guys is there was a ritual that was added on top of the Mosaic. There was a ritual that was added on top of the Feast of Tabernacles. There was a ritual that was added. And that's what was going on in John chapter 7, 8, and 9. There was a ritual that was added. All right. Bear with me 1 second, y'all. It says, of the body of precepts, especially rituals, which is the opinion of later Jews, were orally delivered by Moses and orally transmitted in unbroken succession to subsequent generations. So this is stuff that people later on tried to attribute to Moses, certain rituals and stuff that Moses never said, and that's not in the law, right? When you come down here, it says Jewish traditionary law. This is what Paul, when he was a Pharisee, he was zealous over. They had it backwards. They were more zealous of the traditions than they were of the laws. And the ones that were actually following Yahawashi, they were persecuted by people that were zealous of these traditions. Now, coming back to this right here, I want to read you guys something. What is the pool of Siloam, and why is it important? Why is it important? Let's go to the history. During the Second Temple period, the Pool of Siloam was centrally located in the Jerusalem suburb of Accra, also known as Lower City. Today, the Pool of Siloam is the lowest place in altitude within the historical city of Jerusalem, with an elevation of about 625 meters. The ascent from it onto the Temple Mount meant a gradient of 115 meters, an altitude at a linear distance of about 634 meters. Let's come down here. It says, according to the Jerusalem Talmud, the Pool of Siloam was the starting point for pilgrims who made annual pilgrimages to Jerusalem when they were ascended by foot to the inner court of the Temple Mount to bring offertory to the temple court. So on these pilgrimage feasts, right, a lot of the pilgrims would go to the Pool of Siloam. It was the starting point, and they would make their way from the Pool of Siloam all the way to the Temple Mount. So if you're looking at it right here on the screen, you have the Pool of Siloam down here. And when they would make this pilgrimage feast to Jerusalem, they'd come to this pool, which is not the law. Did Moses say that in Leviticus 23 that you're supposed to start the Pool of Siloam? No, this is traditions that these people added on later. And so they would start here, and then they would make their ascent to the Temple Mount on the pilgrimages feast. These are rituals that have nothing to do with the Mosaic law, but these rituals were added. This is why the Bible says this in Mark chapter 7, verse 9. That's what Yahawashi said. He said, and he said unto them, full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition, making the word of God of none effect through your tradition, which ye have delivered, and many such like things ye do. This is what the Pharisees did. Now, let's jump over to John chapter 9. We're going to pick it up from verse number 1. I kind of want to go back a little bit. I kind of want to go back just a little bit. So we are on slide 28. I kind of want to go back a little bit just to remind you guys of something. Let's see, where is it? Right here. So when you're at John chapter 7 and verse 23, I want you guys to keep the thought. When Yahawashi, matter of fact, let's do it this way. In John chapter 7, to keep the thought, Yahawashi was in Galilee, remember? And it tells you in verse number 2 that it was the time of the Feast of Tabernacles, right? And his brethren told him to go down to Judea so that people could see the miracles that he was doing. Y'all with me on that? That's the whole reason why he went down there, right? So John chapter 7, chapter 8, and chapter 9 are all related. So let's pick it up at John chapter 9. This is after the feast now. And as Yahawashi passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Yahawashi answered, neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. What works? The ones that in John chapter 7, his disciples told him to go down during the Feast of Tabernacles and show the people. So Yahawashi is saying, this dude that's blind right here, it's not nothing his parents did. It's nothing he did, but this is an opportunity for me in Jewry to show the people the works of God, because these Pharisees are trying to kill me. They seek my life. But I'm trying to show you guys that I'm doing good works. Let's continue. Verse number 4. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh where no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made a clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. Verse 7. And he said unto him, go wash in the pool of Siloam. Why did Yahawashi tell this man to go to Siloam? Why couldn't a good man go wash anywhere else? Because during the holy days, the ascent to and from the Temple Mount revolved around the river Siloam. It'd be the place where you'd have the most people, the most eyes. I want you to go there. That's why this is not written in here for nothing. It's all related. And he said unto him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way, therefore, and washed and came seeing. So rituals unrelated to the Mosaic law have been added to the feast to show the power of Yahweh that Yahawashi was dealing with, right? Yahawashi sent the blind man to wash so he could be seen at the very place where these rituals were happening, so that some of the people that were doing these rituals would actually become believers. Can I see that? All right, let's go ahead and
Me?
Yeah.
As you just did. I just have a question, Slocky, about that. I just want clarification, right? Because so the man in John, the last slide, go back to, I think that was John 9, and then the last slide. Yes, or the one. When the disciples said, verse 2, and his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? So, and Yahawashi answered, verse 3, neither hath this man sinned nor his parents, but the works of the Most High should be made manifest in them. Are we to say that this man was in the infinite works of the Most High, he was made like that just for Yahawashi at that time to anoint, to put the spittle with the clay and to do it in front of the people at the pool of Siloam? Was he made for that particular reason? That's the question I got.
That's what the text is saying. Yes.
Okay,
Because this is what would make it harder for the Pharisees and them to be able to kill him, because the people would see him as a prophet. They would see him as a prophet, so it'd make their job much harder. So,
okay, now with that being said, and this is the last question, I don't want to diverge or anything like that. So people born with illnesses, could we then say that they were born because of transgressions? Because the disciples asked him that. We know he was born to show the glory of the Most High through Yahawashi. He was born with that deficiency. But some people were born like, you see them little babies on them channels, they be having the cleft lip, and some people might be born with some type of medical deficiency. Is that a possibility? And if this answer requires another class, then so be it. I just wanted to bring that out real quick for clarification.
Well, based on the questions that they're asking, that's how they understood it. They understood that some people, we could simply look at what they're saying. They're asking this because that's how they understood it in their time, that sometimes people are born with certain ailments because of things that they may have done, or it may have been something that's a curse that's passed down because of something that their parents did. So they understood it that way. So yeah. And then you have other people that are born so that the power of the Most High could be shown in them being healed. So that's how they understood. That's how they understood it. So yes. And it's a tough pill to swallow when you see a child that might be born with some of these things, but this is the way the apostles understood it. So all we're simply doing in our modern time is reading what they said, and that's the way that they understood it, that some people actually are born with certain things because of their sin or because of their parents' sin. That makes sense. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and let's look at this, guys.
We all long for the world to be good, for people to live in peace, act with love and justice. But there's a problem. Something compels us humans to constantly wreak havoc and destruction instead, and we call this evil.
And from the Bible's point of view, evil ruins things in at least two ways. There's a direct effect of our evil, like when someone steals from another person, they've created injustice.
Therefore, they owe something to make it right.
But there's another indirect effect of evil, because they've also ruined the environment of the relationship, creating a lack of trust, there's emotional damage. It's like vandalism, and they need to make that right too.
Now, many people believe, hey, God is good, he should be the one to just get rid of all the evil in the world.
But let's be honest. I mean, the evil that I see everywhere out there, it's the same evil that's inside of me. We have all contributed, and we keep doing it.
And so this kind of puts us in a bind. If God's going to rid the world of evil, he'll have to get rid of us.
And this is what's so remarkable about the story of the Bible. This God is so good that not only is he going to rid the world of evil, he's going to do it without destroying humanity.
So how is he going to do that?
Well, early in the story of the Bible, we're introduced to this practice of animal sacrifice, which I know, it seems weird to us, but for the Israelites, it was a very powerful symbol of God's justice and of his grace. So remember, I'm a contributor to...
Just understand what he just said. It's very important. Animal sacrifice is one of the signs in the Old Covenant of mercy. Because you could have, for some of the sins you committed, you could have died. It's a sign of mercy. It's a sign of grace, to be honest.
The evil that's in the world, I should be removed. But God is allowing this animal's life to be a substitute. It's symbolically dying in my place. And the biblical word for this is atonement, which means to cover over someone's death. But there's a second part to this ritual. Remember, evil also causes this relational vandalism. And in the Bible, this idea is described as polluting or defiling the land and making it unclean. So the priest would symbolically wash away the vandalism by sprinkling the animal's blood in different parts of the temple.
So the animal's blood is cleaning things?
Well, remember, this is a symbol, and it's a symbol that we're not used to. The blood represents life, and the sprinkling of the blood is this representation of how God is cleaning away these indirect consequences of evil in their community. In the Bible, this process is called purification. And so the temple and the land now become a clean space where God and his people can live together in peace.
So this ritual makes things right between Israel and God.
And more than that, the Israelites experience God's love and his grace through these symbols. And by being forgiven, ideally, this would compel them to become people of love and grace too.
Right, that's the ideal, but it wasn't always happening.
Right. So the prophet Isaiah, for example, he talks a lot about this. He opens his book by saying that the continual sacrifices of the Israelites had become meaningless because they were also allowing great evil in their midst, ignoring the poor and the oppressed. Even the Israelite kings were distorting justice. But Isaiah looked forward to a day when a new king from the line of David would come and deal with evil, but in a surprising way. The king would become a servant, and not just serve, but also suffer and die for the evil committed by his own people. And his life would be offered as a sacrifice.
This is the promise Jesus believed he was fulfilling. He's the King of Israel, suffering and dying on the cross.
In fact, Jesus himself used Isaiah's words when he said that he came to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. And that word ransom refers to his sacrifice of atonement. And so all over the New Testament, we hear about how Jesus' death was an atoning sacrifice for us.
So the idea is, we have to watch the whole video. The idea is the atonement sacrifices, the reconciliation that we would do through the animal sacrifice, which we no longer have access to in the absence of a temple, a priesthood, and plus we polluted those sacrifices. Now Yahawashi covers that for us. Let's move on.
We all...
Let's look at Ephesians chapter 2 and verses 13 through 16. But now, in Yahawashi, Christ Jesus, ye who were sometimes were far off, are made nigh by the blood of Christ. Remember, before we were made nigh to the Most High by the blood of goats and bulls and lambs. For he is our peace, who have made both into one and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us, because the Most High had become an enemy to us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby. So under the old covenant, when we had a standing temple and a priesthood, so forth and so on, reconciliation was done through these sacrifices. But now it's done via the body of Yahawashi. That's how we make peace and have atonement and reconciliation with the Most High through the sacrifice that Yahawashi made, which makes perfect sense because we don't have any other way to receive reconciliation. There's no other way. We don't even know who the lineage of Aaron is right now. We know who the brothers are that are Levites, but who's the sons of Aaron? Who's the sons of Zadok? Like, who is that? We don't know. Those things have to be restored to us and won't be restored to us until the kingdom. Can you imagine if somebody right now knew that they were of the house of Zadok? They go around oppressing Israel. You can't tell me nothing. I'm a great grand of my was Zadok in the Old Testament. We can't have that. So we have to make our reconciliation through Yahawashi till we become perfect. Because in this flesh and blood body, if the Most High was to reveal to any brother in Israel what your lineage really is, like you come from the line of Daniel. Daniel didn't have children, he was a eunuch, but you come from the line of Isaiah, or you come from the line of David, or you come from the line of Moses or Aaron or something like that. Brothers' heads to be swelled up, man. So right now, we received the reconciliation through Hamashiach Yahawashi. That's the point. Let's move on. And again, to reconcile is to what? To restore to union and friendship after estrangement. So the Most High was estranged from Israel for a certain amount of time. The Most High allowed the Romans to come in, destroy our temple, scatter the priesthood. Israel was driven out into all these different lands. Many of us started following after pagan customs, so forth and so on, right? But then the Most High raised up the Apostle Paul to go to these very same places where the Israelites were and begin to teach them the gospel of reconciliation through Yahawashi, and that they can also be reconciled back to the Father and repent if they want to be obedient. And that's why Yahawashi is so very, very important. And now when we're keeping these holy days, we keep these holy days in the right mind frame, in the right mindset. It's not just a ritual, but the very fact that we have access to these holy days and this knowledge is because of Yahawashi. That's the point. So we keep these holy days with a newness of mind. Don't just be a robot just doing it just to do it. Is the point. Let's move on. This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 9. We're going to start from verse number 9. It says, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts, we saw that in Leviticus 23, and sacrifices, we saw that in Leviticus 23, and Numbers chapter 12, that could not make that which did the service perfect as pertaining to conscience, meaning even the people that were offering the gifts, even the people that were doing the sacrifices, which would have been the priests, even they weren't perfect. Which stood only in meats, those meat offerings that we read about, and drinks, those drink offerings that we read about, and diverse washings, and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of Reformation, right? Moses imposed those things on us. We had to do these things every year. The priests that did the service of the tabernacle and the temple, that was imposed on them. That was their job. They had to do that. Verse 11. But Christ, Yahawashi, being come in high priest of good things to come, and by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. So the blood of Yahawashi, what makes it greater than the blood of the bulls or the goats, is that we obtain eternal redemption through Yahawashi. We couldn't get that through those other sacrifices. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of an heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctifies to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, Yahawashi, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve a living God. When it speaks about these dead works, what are the dead works it's talking about? It's talking about what's written in verse 13. It's talking about what's written in verse number 9 and verse number 10. These are the dead works. It's not saying that the Mosaic law are dead works. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying Passover is a dead work. It's not saying that the Feast of First Fruits is a dead work. It's not saying don't eat pork and the dietary law is a dead work. In context, the dead works that's being spoken about from verses 9 all the way to verse 14 is sacrifices that never purged the conscience. That's the point. So Yahawashi died in that way. Through him, now we can receive eternal redemption, and our conscience can be purged, and we can keep these holy days in newness of mind and spirit because we understand what they really represent. Oops, lock it. Verse 15. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, that's Israel. So Christ became the mediator of the New Testament for the redemption of those that were under the first testament, that's Israel, not everybody, that they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Those of our people that are actually called to wake up to this truth and repent, that we might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Let's go on. For the sake of time, I'm kind of skipping some slides right now because time is upon us. Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, and we're going to read verses 16 through 19. Future prophecy and proof that the holy days are not abolished. We're still going to be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles in the kingdom of Yahawashi. But again, when we're keeping that Feast of Tabernacles in the kingdom of Yahawashi, we're going to keep it with a perfect conscience towards the Most High, because we're going to understand exactly what it means. It won't be just a ritual to us. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 16. It says, "And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain." So the nations that do not want to come up during the Feast of Tabernacles to worship the King, Yahawashi, the Most High said they're not going to get any rain. So this is still going to be kept even in the kingdom. And verse 18, "If the family of Egypt go not up." Now, I always find this verbiage to be very, very curious, because the whole purpose of tabernacles to begin with was the Most High destroyed the Egyptians, showed Israel favor, and brought us out of Egypt and killed off all their firstborn, right? So anything associated with us being in Egypt, the exodus out of Egypt, and a sojourn in the wilderness, the Egyptians are going to have a problem celebrating that, because it really revolves around God destroying them. But the Bible says they got to come up. They got to come up. And if the family of Egypt go not up, that's why they're singled out of all the nations, because they probably, if I was a betting man, they're going to be probably one of the nations that's not going to, that at first, that we're going to have to put our foot on their neck. They're not going to want to do it when they really understand what it is. Verse 18, "And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain," they ain't going to get no rain, "there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord shall smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." The nations are going to have to put respect on that thing. "This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." All right. So what I'm going to do is, for the sake of time and everything, because again, brothers and sisters, for those of y'all that came late, we are observing the Feast of Tabernacles. Our camp is, so I don't want to go no further than I already am, but hopefully the lesson made sense and you guys were able to follow along and enjoy the lesson. If the lesson made sense, guys, just put one in the chat and let me know that everything was good. All right. Hopefully everything was clear. I know, like I said, I'm on the road, so I want to make sure that you guys were able to hear everything. Okay. Looks like everything was loud and clear. So all praise to the Most High for that. Elder Zab, you have anything that you wanted to say or add?
No, La'ah King, beautiful class. I think it was straightforward. Everything is, it's on deck. Yeah, man, beautiful class, King. That's it.
All praises, all praises. To the people on Clubhouse, real quick, I'm posting something on Clubhouse real quick for you guys. Okay. I'm going to change the link at the top of the room. Real quick. So we just launched a new house on Clubhouse. For those of you guys that are on Clubhouse, we just launched a new house on Clubhouse. Well, it's not allowing me to pin it at the top. So I'm going to put it in the chat. We just launched a new house on Clubhouse, and we'll be having class a lot more often. I know I only come on this Clubhouse page once a week, but we're going to be doing classes a lot more. So when you get a chance, guys, the link is in the chat on Clubhouse. You guys can check that out and be sure to join our new house on Clubhouse. Okay. Let's just really quickly look and see what's coming up. in the near future. I'm going to bring you guys to our website so we can track and see what's going on. Okay, so let me share my screen really quickly one more time. Oh, I want to talk to you guys about a couple of things since I have you guys here. All right, so first thing is first. If you come to our website, which is thelionsofisrael.com, you come to this tab here that says more. You guys see where it says calendar right there. So if you guys want to keep abreast of the holy days as far as when we're going to be observing the holy days and make plans to attend or what have you, this is our calendar right here. So we're in the month of October. We are currently, our campus currently observing the Feast of Tabernacles right now. And then you toggle right here with this arrow to the next month. You have November, pretty much you just have the new moons and the Sabbaths, right? And then in December, around the 24th of December is the beginning of the Feast of Dedication, okay? And we're going to continue adding holy days to the calendar because we'll be adding the date of the Passover not too far from now. So you guys, you brothers and sisters can be, it's already up here. Passover is April the 11th. There it is. Passover is Friday, April 11th is when we'll be observing the Passover this year. Stay tuned for more information on that. Okay.
Also, priest, I'm going to redo the calendar. I'm going to have all the dates for 2025 coming all the way back to dedication. So we'll have that by the end of October. That way, if you want to fellowship with us, you have a calendar that stretches out a year in advance. So if you need to go to your job, get days off, so on and so forth, you are equipped way ahead of time, because I think I see that in Israel a lot, where people struggle to get days off. And you know what? Most of it for us, the blame is on us because we kind of do things last minute. I mean, we wouldn't be Israel if we wasn't a last minute nation, right? But it's very important to be organized with these high holy days so you could give your job the heads up notice so you could take certain days off. So you're not running around, oh, I can only stay this, stay that, I got to go back to work. Nah, if you plan ahead, just sit down and, plan it out, the Most High will make a way. So by the end of this month, we're going to have updated calendar from now till next year. Feast of Dedication, all the high holy days will be on the website.
Oh, praises. Okay, so you guys got it. So again, you come to our website, you come to the tab that says more, and you click on calendar. Next thing, the tab that says books. Now, I will admit, guys, that we haven't been the most proactive in uploading books to the website. Matter of fact, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second. I want to show you guys this from a different screen because I want to show you guys something that happened over the last 2 weeks that very interesting. So I'm glad I was doing what I was doing before because something is going on. So we'll bring you back to our website. So under the tab that says books, you guys will see that we have a lot of different PDFs of books that we use as sources to prove a lot of things that we teach, that are extra biblical or outside of the Bible, right? Now, I'm gonna open up another tab and I'm gonna go to this website called archive.org, right? Okay. Now, if you guys are looking at the screen, archive.org is down now. This is the place I was getting a lot of these PDFs. They had some type of cyber attack. I was doing some research. They had some type of cyber attack against the website, and they had millions and millions and millions of ancient manuscripts, ancient books that are hundreds of years old that were wiped clean by that cyber attack. That's why I was huh? What do you say, Tom?
Nah, my Umar Johnson jumped on me. You know what I mean when he said, you don't find that suspicious?
Mm-hmm. So I was, what I was doing was I accumulated a good, no exaggeration, about 200 or 300 books from that website before it went down. Thank the Most High. And we haven't put them all on our website, so we take accountability for that. But we have some, right? These are some of the books that I do use, especially in the academy. So you guys can come to our website, thelionsofisrael.com, click on the tab that says books, and you guys can get your copies of the books straight from our website. And Most High allow, when we have time, Elder Zahab is busy, I'm busy, but when we have time, we'll try to add a couple more books to the website as well that you guys can use. But for the time being, this is where you're going to have to get it until they come back. All right. Show you that. Last thing. Let me see something real quick. Okay. Last thing. So under the tab that says more, there's a tab that says contact. Let's deal with that one first, right? Now, I know some of you brothers wanted to do the academy and stuff like that, right? I decided not to do an academy right now, except for the brothers that are in the camp. They know what I said. I will do something, but I'm not going to do Salakia Academy like what I was going to do probably until the spring. And that doesn't go for what we talked about in our private camp council, brothers. So, brothers know what we talked about. But I'm not doing an academy. But if you want to be in the academy in the spring, right, then you guys are welcome to be a part of the academy in the spring. Let me stay focused 1 second before I show you guys that. So you come to the tab that says more. You come to where it says contact, and you fill this out, and let us know you want to be a part of the academy. You email, we'll email you, so forth and so on, and we'll go from there. Okay, that's the email. Join LOI 149. Last but not least. Well, you know what? Let me do this first. I want you guys to look at this right here. This is my folder. You guys are getting a sneak peek. This is my folder for my PowerPoints, right? You guys see that? But I want you guys to take a look in this lower right-hand corner. I don't know if you guys can see that, right? That number there says 381. Does everybody know what that number means? That number means that I have 381 PowerPoints. Believe it or not, I got 381 PowerPoints. These are lessons that I don't do on the Sabbath. These are lessons that I only do in the academy, and they're all here in this folder. 381 PowerPoints. Y'all see that? Everywhere. So this is what we're going to do in the academy next year. If you want to be a part of that, email us. It's probably going to be in the spring. And last but not least, the tab that says donations. These are the ways that you brothers and sisters can support the ministry if the Most High puts it on your heart. I do appreciate everybody that has been supporting us already. We appreciate it. We definitely can use it. The Feast of Tabernacles comes, Passover comes, and a lot of times these things are so expensive for us to accommodate everybody that, gets a little tough. So everything that you brothers and sisters actually donate and give us is a great help. So I thank all you brothers and sisters that have been doing it. You know who you are. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. And please continue to help us if the Most High puts it on your spirit. All right. So I think that I am completed. I think that's pretty much it. So Elder Zahab said there's nothing else. So with that being said, it's your brother Priest Dan, representing Lions of Israel, representing Maccabeestv. If it be the Most High's will, we'll be right back here next week. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with another Sabbath class. Again, guys, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe right now. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you know that we're live every time we go live. And we're going to do our thing again next week if it be the Most High's will. All right? So with that being said, guys, I'm out of here. Shalom.
Reflecting the way of life under the Florida sky. Even the lobbies funnel in the great outdoors.
Chosen.
I was set apart for God's use. Chosen. Set apart for God, you formed in His image.
Chosen. They say the chain of Shaitan is not that strong. They say his time is running out, he ain't got that long. They say murder, murder, kill, this is not that song. Said I won't amount to nothing, they got that wrong. Cause I was set apart and I was shown the light. And if I get the kingdom, I'll be clothed in white. 1/3 will be delivered and the rest were blinded. Their fate is set in stone, what you ain't read the fine print? Christ is gonna give a crown to us. In the end we'll have the nations bowing down to us. with their faces to the ground to us. It's the truth, as crazy as it sounds to us. Jacob forever rules, and we're his precious jewels. Showed us love and patience, put us above the nations. And that's the gospel. Thank God for choosing me. Bad news for you is really good news for me.
I was set apart for God's use. Chosen. I was set apart for God's use. Formed in His image.
We're not the same as these other nations. Let me tell you why. We have a different kind of shine, a different kind of mind. The rhythm's not the same, we're on a different type of time. With a different kind of pace, a different kind of race. The season's not the same, we have a different kind of taste. A different kind of salt, we are so not them. Got my sword and my shield, man, I'm so locked in. And when I came to serve Yahweh, put my whole heart in. So I can't sit calm, I'm no Martin. And that's a reach, y'all, chosen to teach y'all. Every Sabbath you can find us in the streets, y'all. Danyaahla, my nickname is Priest, y'all. In the gym, they say that I'm a beast, y'all. Set apart, the nations all hate me. Set a trap, they lying in wait for me. Chris Paul, they don't wanna play with me. But if you love me, I'm asking that you pray with me. Cause
I was set apart for God's use. Chosen. I was set apart for God's use. Formed in His image.
Chosen. And thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God have chosen thee to be a special people, chosen above all people that's on the face of the earth. That's Deuteronomy 7:6. That's you, black and Latin man. Chosen. That's you, black and Latin woman. Yeah. Are we the chosen? Chosen.